From Jake Paul viciously slamming down the rematch clause after his defeat, to following that up with absolutely no updates about Paul versus Fury 2 whatsoever. Will there even be a rematch? Here's what Tommy Fury's dad had to say about it. It's been radio silence out there. Apparently, the topic hasn't even brought up since Fury emerged victorious against the YouTube star. Although it hasn't even been that long since the match took place on February 26th. It's still surprising to hear no insults thrown or promises made from Paul's side.
You know, I always make these videos before my fights. I want y'all to know how I'm feeling. I'm feeling great. I'm carved up, hydrated, ready to go. We're in the arena, and it's crazy to be all the way from Cleveland, Ohio.
The guy entered the ring with a backup plan secured should Fury manage to defeat him, and he took it up immediately. Man barely gave his rival any time to enjoy his victory. Right after the fight, Paul graciously acknowledged Fury's win, and followed that up with clear intentions of taking him up for another match. He paid his respects, but said that he didn't agree with the scorecards, and that he deserves another chance. He'll take the loss, but is ready for Paul versus Fury Part 2. Not gonna lie, I expected him to show up at Fury's door the very next day with a list of negotiations for the upcoming match. But as of now, there's no news of the two meeting up for discussions. And it's not like Paul's been MIA out of consideration for his opponent. The two have never been on good terms. There had been a lot of hype and anticipation built up as the date of the first match drew closer, and the two had constantly been tussling with each other, from hurling insults on social media to straight out venting their fury verbally. Paul went as far as to leaking the news of his daughter's birth. So when the day arrived, when they'd finally put some worth where their words were, everyone knew all hell was about to break loose in the arena. And after all this, I just know the rematch is gonna be lit. That is, if it even happens. Calm down, I'm not saying it's canceled. No, it's most definitely going to take place. According to rumors, the bout will take place sometime in July. Tommy's father and coach, John Fury, has assured fans that despite negotiations not yet surfacing, the match will take place sooner or later. When asked about an update, he told The Express that it depended on what Paul's team was planning to do. As for Fury, the guy's hard at work at training camp. But besides that, the coach himself is in the dark, although it was announced that discussions were already underway barely 1 week after the match. According to the latest updates, they haven't even started yet. John hasn't even spoken to Paul's team, so they're all probably just recharging before having to deal with this whole fiasco again. But they'll be right on track in no time at all.
You know, to be honest with you, and by the way, he has the right to say he's a professional boxer because he impressed the hell out of me. Because, you know, he took great shots, he gave great shots, and they served up.
John had a lot to say about Paul before the match, as it is with trash talking in boxing. But the 58-year-old was forced to acknowledge his skills after his performance in Saudi Arabia, considering how hard Fury had to work to defeat the internet's problem child. I'm kind of surprised that he'd even put up with a rematch that willingly. After the game, the emotional 23-year-old talked about how that fight had consumed his life for the past 2 years. It was constantly being delayed, once because he had a broken rib, and a second time because he was denied access to the US.
This is business for me. You know, Jake Paul, you know, he's known all over the world for everything other than fighting. And we're fighting on Sunday night, so he can talk as much as he wants, he can have as many followers as he wants, whatever.
He also stated that everyone thought he was scared and making excuses to find a way out. And now that he's finally put a stop to the never-ending doubts, why would he risk his reputation with a rematch? I don't know, man. Ask Tommy. The guy's ready for Paul's claim and told him to bring it on.
Now it's time to put it all to bed. And I've been quietly confident ever since I heard this man and watched him fight, up until his last fight. You know, there's nothing that this man can do to beat me. Definitely not.
While speaking on Good Morning Britain, Fury revealed that besides being totally up for a second fight, he's also confident that he'll perform even better than before. And for the fans' sake, let's hope he won't have to eat his words later. The Brit also said that he believed that he owed the rematch to himself since the previous fight was only 8 rounds. And although he's not taking Paul lightly and is training extensively, he's stopped him once before and he can do it again. Not gonna lie, that takes guts. Fury has already broken down his fighting style and knows what to expect from him in the ring. He's vowed to end his bitter feud with Paul once and for all before continuing to level up in his boxing career. The Brit described the win as making it through a world title fight.
And we're here, and I'm in super fit condition. I'm ready to go and put this all to bed because for the past 2.5 years, all it's been is, when are you fighting Jake Paul? Da 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 da. To even mention my name in the same sentence as that, it's disrespectful to me,
The guy's high off his victory, and he earned it. But how will a rematch even play out? And who's to say Paul will accept the scorecards this time? After the match, the fighter claimed that he had faced some problems while training, which explained his shortcomings in the actual match. He said that he had fallen ill twice in the camp and had also injured his arm, which is why he fell flat in the ring. The 26-year-old also stated that it wasn't his best performance. This isn't an excuse though, since Fury won fair and square.
There's a lot of things. You know, I got to go back and look at the tape and really dissect it. But I know when I'm in a flow state, when I'm feeling good, and when I'm having
So, are those just excuses, or was the YouTube star set back due to his injuries? We'll see in the next game. The big question is, who will manage to come out on top when the match inevitably takes place?
UFC champions. You know, Tyron Woodley was winning the UFC championship while I was on Disney Channel. So when Tommy says, you know, I've been doing this my whole life, none of that means anything. I've always trained harder.
Believe it or not, it could go either way. There are still many people who are under the impression that Paul deserves to win the fight titled The Truth. Although Fury seemed to be at an advantage in the beginning, landing some solid shots throughout the fight, Paul flipped the table at the end with a perfectly timed left hook, knocking Fury off balance enough that he touched the floor. That led many to believe that the guy's got it in him, and in the next fight, he can use that experience to give a better performance. Fury, on the other hand, still has the majority of the favor to his name. But one thing's for sure, the fight will garner just as much attention as the first one. The first fight had everyone glued to their screens.
You know, at the end of the day, a main event, I had the world on my shoulders, the world was watching this fight. You know, there's a lot of things to deal with. I'm only 23 years old, it's my 9th fight. You know, there's people with 30-odd fights, you know, crack under the pressure. I didn't crack tonight, and that was the main thing. I showed the world that I can handle the big occasion.
Why was it so hyped up, you ask? Well, both the contenders are pretty famous with younger audiences, with Paul having a large social media following due to his previous career as a vlogger, and Fury being a reality TV star. Unless you've been living under a rock for the past couple of years, you just know who these two are. Not to mention, Fury's also boxing legend Tyson Fury's younger half-brother, so it wasn't just his reputation on the line, and the older Fury brother wasn't taking any chances.
Jake Paul's done a lot of smack talking and says he's going to do this and do that. And my own brother chews my ear off every time we go for a run, so I'm going to smash his face in, I'm going to do this, I want to get him in there, I want to do this. So I want to see it now, I want to see them both go at it, and not just like...
Being a heavyweight champion sibling may come with a whole bunch of pros, but it sure has its cons, and a lot of them. The 34-year-old even agreed with Tommy despite the high-pressure situation he was already in. Who cares about crippling pressure when you could lose a match? Basically, Fury would have had to shut down his entire career just because of a grudge match.
This was my main event, you know, it's the first time at the big dance. I came here, I delivered. I'm only going to grow from this, stronger. You know, there's a lot of pressure on my shoulders tonight, but the next big event I go into, I'll have the experience and you'll see a much better fighter.
The stakes were huge for the Brit. The 23-year-old's entire career would have crumbled, so this was like a do-or-die situation for him. I just know the poor guy was sweating in his sleep, and it seems like he's going to be faced with the same circumstances pretty soon. Will he defeat Paul once again, erasing any doubts regarding his skills? Or will the 26-year-old manage to make the most out of his second chance? I can't wait to find out. That's a wrap for Tommy Fury's dad's prediction on when the Jake Paul rematch will happen.